Hey there, my name's Sebastian Shields. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm practiced out of California, and I'm going to be talking today about brain balance, right? And so let's talk a little bit about the influences of brain balance. The inspiration for this model comes from a combination of insights related to child development, specifically the three stages of the brain's growth and development. The preferred parenting outcomes for the stages of development 1 to 5, 6 to 11, and 12 to 24, as well as the impact of childhood neglect and trauma on the brain's tools to self regulate. It incorporates the ideas of Freud's id, ego, and superego, as this concept is a base to explore the idea of different selves. However, his model lacks the proper alignment with the stages of development. When these concepts are combined, it provides people with a baseline of how the brain can work under ideal conditions, using the strengths and weaknesses of the id and superego as to best develop the ego, which explores where deficits can be supported to create balance. So overall, really, my concepts come from a combination of working in child development for several years and working as a preschool teacher, really understanding the different stages of growth and development in each age, and understanding how each age group can affect later outcomes. I also learned through psychology the id, ego, and superego, and understanding how to incorporate these tools into the brain's development. Now, what I will say was Freud's idea of these things being really present from childhood. I can see where he was coming from to some extent, but I think once we expand the idea into the different developmental stages, it makes a lot more sense. And also, we can change how the brain interacts by understanding that process and then making adjustments to get better outcomes, right? More balance, you could say. Okay, so let's talk about the three stages of development. First, we have 1 to 5, which 1 to 5-year-olds, well, those are toddlers, those are preschoolers, right? Let's think of what they do. I love you, I hate you, don't leave me. Very good way to kind of look at a preschooler, a little kid, a little toddler, right? 1 to 5-year-old. And this is the age where, again, it's self-centered, impulsive, reactionary, right? Very emotional, right? I love you. Give me everything. I hate you. Get away from me. Don't leave. Where are you going, right? This is a 1 to 5-year-old. They don't really care about who's around as long as they're getting their needs met. So regardless of their environmental factors, as long as they're getting what they want, they're happy campers. 6 to 11, this is really when you start developing your individuality, your confidence, your ego, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. You really want to figure out, like, your passions, hobbies, and interests. Your favorite TV shows, your favorite foods, your cultural background. Your role models. If you want to be a pilot, if you want to be a dancer, a musician, whatever those things you really want from life. Your calling in life, you could call it. Your little place on the planet Earth. So that's what you're going to develop between 6 and 11. 12 to 24 is when you develop your adult or your superego, right? And so 12 to 15 is the first stage of development for this brain. And that's when peers are the most important people. You start to think about, maybe I change myself to fit into the bigger group. Maybe I might change my music taste or the clothing I wear or my belief systems to kind of fit in with the people around me. And this same concept will continue on through your adulthood, where you'll start to judge yourself with coworkers, judge yourself with, the people you live around. And they're really developing like this idea of like, where do I fit in comparison to others? Ideally, over time, you might end up becoming your own peer, especially if you are like the expert in your field. But at first, you're obviously going to compare yourself to others until you achieve that, hey, I need to compare myself to myself. And so we'll get to that point at some point in our development. 16 to 19 is future. What do I want to do with my life? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to go to the military? Do I want to stay with my girlfriend? Do I want to go backpacking in Europe? Whatever that thing may be for you, what you want to do with your life, that'll come again with this 16 to 19. It continues on throughout your life as you get older. 20 to 24 is independence. I want to move out. I don't live at home anymore. I just be by myself on my own thing. I'll figure it out. I'll live out of my car. I don't care, right? It's really that push to be on your own, figuring out life, being independent, right? So at the end of this development, we now have these three brains, all right? And they all have different purposes, right? Again, child brain, very self-centered. Adult brain, very productive, trying to remain independent. Ego is all about that spirit and confidence. So we're going to use a little problem to kind of explain how these different brains interact. It's called the water bottle problem. You go to your car and notice you didn't scan the water bottles at the bottom of the car. Oof. Your child brain, your id, says, I don't want to go back and pay. I just want to go home. I don't care. I don't want to think about it anymore. Right? Your adult brain's like, your superego, I should go pay. It's the right thing to do. I should just do the right thing, and I should just go back and pay. I know I didn't pay, and that means I'm a thief, right? So again, here's the little battle going on here. Here's an example of how the two brains engage while an obstacle/challenge has been presented. So here's the clash of the two sides, right? One wants to go now, impulsive, reactionary, emotional, and the other one wants to be independent, right? Wants to do the right thing, wants to think things through, and cares what other people think. So here's an example of picking a side when ego is not present. So let's think about confidence isn't there. This is a non-confident person. So let's see how they interact with this situation. So let's say they're going to pay for the water bottle. So as the person walks back to pay, their child brain internally is emotionally impacted, causing a drop in mood, irritability, and frustration for the extended period of the task. Right? So it's like, oh, I have to go in there and pay. I don't want to be here. You're imagining where you could be on the road. I could almost be home by now. Oh, what a detriment to my day, right? Well, let's say we take the water bottles, okay? The adult brain will relentlessly remind the person that they stole them, in addition to how their decision could impact their future, affect how they view themselves, how others may judge them moving forward, causing internal distress. Oh, I didn't pay for those. What if they were seeing me in the Walmart again? They know I didn't pay, and I don't want to deal with that, and like problems that I could have just handled if I just would have been back and paid. So these just thoughts just start to eat at you little by little for feeling guilty of not doing the right thing. So insight, regardless of which direction one picks, internal conflict will arise. So really what we're going to take away from this is when confidence isn't there, no matter what choice I make, I'm not going to feel very good about it. So the question is, where is the ego? Well, good question. Where is ego? Ego can be viewed as one's confidence, their individuality, their spirit. When someone's living in an imbalanced life, their ego loses its confidence, leading to the adult and child brain to have an ongoing conflict. When ego is high, it becomes the deciding factor. So again, when ego is high, it's going to look at the big scenario and say, okay, what are we going to work with? Well, let's see what it does here. Okay, brains, one of you wants to leave now and one wants to pay. Well, how much time do I have and how much effort would it take to resolve this? So based on the circumstances, ego will create like a 2 versus 1 effect, creating confidence and choice. Let's see what that looks like. So let's apply ego in both scenarios. So your adult brain, it's not a big deal. It'll take me 10 minutes to go in and go home. I'm good with that choice. So again, if I have plenty of time, let's go do the right thing. Not a big deal. Boom. I go in there. I'm confident. Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot it. Boom. I pay. I'm out. We're good. I'm having a good day. My child brain wins and says, I only got 15 minutes. Let's get out of here. It's just $5. Not a big deal. Life will go on. So I jump in my car. I'm out. I'm drinking a water bottle. I'm calling it a day. So in both scenarios, ego played a vital role in confidence, creating an ego-centered approach. Now, another example I like to give about this kind of ego-centered approach is, let's say I'm at work and I clock out and I'm on my way out and my boss is like, yo, can you do this for me real quick? And I'm like, oh, my kid brain wants to go, no, I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. My adult brain's like, yeah, I'll go do it, no problem. Yeah. So I'm walking back to do it, but I don't feel good doing it. Under my breath, I'm just like, I hate this. I feel like I'm not respected. I feel like they don't care. I'm just not feeling good, right? But if I blow up on my boss on my way home in my car, I'm going to feel horrible. Oh my God, how am I going to tell my partner this happened? Oh, and this drainage is going to happen. So again, either way, I'm not feeling good. And this is where an ego-centered approach is super important. So then I say, hey, look, I already clocked out. I don't mind doing it right now, but in the future, I usually have to be somewhere at 4, so I'm usually not going to be available, okay? Or I say, hey, look, tomorrow, I'll do it first thing in the morning. Right now, I already left. I'm already on my way out, so when I come in tomorrow, I'll get it done. So again, I'm setting my boundaries. I'm respecting myself, right? I'm using an ego-centered approach where I'm listening to both sides of my brain, but ultimately, I'm going to say what I'm okay with doing and give you that answer. And then I don't have to leave feeling like I didn't get heard or I wasn't validated or I'm like disappointing myself. So really taking the two sides and blending them gives me confidence. So ego's impact. Ego is the reflection of one's life balance. The more that they're able to meet their productivity deficits and emotional needs, the stronger their confidence becomes, allowing them to engage life on life's terms. When ego is not present, there begins to be a struggle of power between the child and the adult brain, leading to several possible imbalances. Each imbalance creates its own challenges, leading to different approaches to resolving deficits and needs, as well as its unique impact on one's overall ability to regulate. All right, so we're going to see how our brains are different and how each time we kind of give into one brain, a deficit will be created. So, what's the difference in brains? A simple way to explore the difference in the adult and child brain is to explore how the brain is impacted by alcohol. So, alcohol impacts the prefrontal cortex first, which is where the adult brain is developed. Alcohol consumption in a single setting leads to a progressive deactivation of the adult brain. The more the person drinks, the less active the adult brain is. As the adult brain deactivates, the child brain becomes the predominant brain. So, when we drink alcohol, we become more like a kid. As people get closer to intoxication, they have childlike mannerisms and thoughts. People that are drunk have similar mannerisms to toddlers, lacking consideration for their independence, future, and peers, as seen when the choices people make when they have drank in excess or blacked out. So again, driving under the influence, talking to people or saying things you normally wouldn't say, purchasing things, acting in ways that are, very embarrassing when sober. So a lot of factors will happen when we drink that, again, we wouldn't do if our whole brain was active and available. After a night of excess drinking, especially after a blackout, the adult brain will return to the system. At this point, the care for independence, future, and peers will set in, causing the person to now consider the possible behaviors and actions from the night before that could potentially cause consequences in those specific areas. As they will review messages, ask questions about the night, reflect on possible spending habits that occur while under the influence, as well as this all took place while the child brain was active. This can cause anxiety and stress to rise in the person recovering from the imbalance. So again, after all that, all these feelings start to set in like, oh my God, what did I do? How did I act? Now that starts to affect somebody. The adult brain will start to attack, blame, and cause fault towards the child brain. The adult brain will cause feelings of shame, guilt when reflecting on the poor decisions that have been made. For someone with alcohol use disorder, they may feel the need to drink again, as to deactivate that adult brain. Their current source of their anxiety, as they're not regulated enough to handle their current emotional needs. So again, if I have anxiety, well, alcohol will knock it out. Why? Because I'm not an adult at that point. I'm a kid and I get to just let go. But again, what happens over time, that builds up. And I keep losing more of my life because I keep allowing my brain to get the best of me. And I'm not changing anything. And we'll explore that as we continue. Based on the insight now understood about the child brain, which is connected to the brain related to addiction, the child brain will mirror the behaviors of someone living similar to the life of a child, where independence is not addressed, nor desire for thoughts related to future, nor desire to care about what peers are doing in comparison, leading to a lack of accountability. This person may engage in their passions, hobbies, and interests without the consideration for productive needs, leaving their adult responsibilities on others who will have to support their imbalance. We call this also like an enabler. That's what we use in the addiction world. We'll talk about enablers. But everybody who acts like a child needs an adult to be somebody who's going to take care of some of the responsibilities in their life, especially if they're not willing to address them. This imbalance will lead to feelings of anxiety, as they're lacking the elements of independence, future, and peers. An adult with a fully developed brain will experience an internal struggle with feeling underproductive, leading to reactivity and overall sensitivity from others regarding their lack of productivity. This can also become self-destructive and lead to more dysregulation and a loss of social supports. Due to the lack of accountability, in simple, adults feel drained being around children, in this case, the brain differences. So this is like when you have that family member that everyone's like, God, when are they going to grow up? Like, why are they going to figure it out? Okay, that person's always in that victim mentality, when are they going to realize they're the problem? This is that same mentality that you could say is that someone that's in their child brain. Right, so you're getting frustrated, that's probably someone in their kid brain. The other side of the brain development is the adult brain, which can also create imbalance when it has control of all behaviors and actions. The adult brain is really good at worrying about productivity, meeting one's independence, care about future outcomes, and caring about how they're living in comparison to peers. These factors, when in balance, create a struggle with boundaries, as the person being driven by their adult brain will focus heavily on outcomes, neglecting their child brain, leading to feeling depressed as they neglect their need for fun, creating a cycle of productivity but no fulfillment. Someone that is predominantly in their adult brain will feel a sense of hollowness as they are working on meeting their productivity needs while neglecting their need for self care. When they do attempt to make time for themselves, their overly active adult brain will create shame for wanting something outside of their productive needs, causing symptoms of depression. So you can see here, right, the more that I just spread myself thin, the less I care about my balance, the more I feel I'm not able to get my needs met. When the adult brain is the driving force, it creates a Groundhog's Day effect, which leads to a lack of purpose in life, feeling of emptiness as they're lacking passions, hobbies, and interests. The elements that provide someone with fun. Without passions, hobbies, and interests, the person will begin to experience depressive symptoms as they're lacking any kind of excitement for life, depressing the child brain. This lack of self-care will lead to a feeling of burnout and instability as they have a diminished their resilience to burnout. Their adult brain has struggles with saying no and setting boundaries, leading to a life of feeling spread thin, overstimulated, without balance. They will experience ongoing depressive symptoms. These examples present the extreme of both the child and the adult brain deficits. When confidence is low, it can cause the most destructive cycle, which is somebody bouncing from both extremes. So again, if my confidence is really bad, you might see people that say, I'm here to change my life, I want to be there for everybody, and then a month later that same person says, I hate everybody, everybody's the worst, I don't like anybody, and then again, another month later, they're back to, I want to change, I want to be better, I want to be accountable, and they just keep going from this very destructive, side of, throwing from one direction to another, and so they're just living all over the place. They have horrible anxiety and depression. Okay, when a person bounces between their adult and child brain, it causes a huge struggle with overall regulation, both causing issues of productivity and self-care, leading to a life where one loses social supports while also struggling with boundaries, having both anxiety and depressive symptoms, leading to a life of self-destruction from both ends. This leads to a discussion on what's the opposite of complete imbalance look like, which is the balance of both the adult and child brain, meeting both productivity needs and self-care, fun. A life that is able to meet their independence, future, and peer needs while also respecting their time dedicated to passions, hobbies, and interests, building resilience to burnout. So the question, how does someone balance their life? Well, the following is a simplification of how the brain works together to produce balance. So first you can see here we got our adult brain, which is our productivity. And I got some little times there, 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. just as an example, an ideal system as I called it for this. And this is just time where I'm in my adult brain. I'm handling my independence, I care about my future, and I care about what my peers think about me as far as taking care of myself, my health, my property, the things that I own, the work that I do. I want to be, recognized for the things that I do and that I care. This is the time when we deal with our anxiety deficits. So if I'm feeling anxious, this is the time I'm supposed to be making plans to address those things. The next part of the day is the child, right? The fun. So 7 p.m., 9 p.m., maybe 2 to 3 hours of fun time. This is when I'm going to have passions, hobbies, and interests. This is a time when we deal with our depression deficits. So again, if I'm feeling depression, well, I need to make time for some fun. Let my little kid out. Enjoy my brain. Enjoy my life. Enjoy my individuality. And the last part's relaxation or sleep, right? And this is from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is a time set for self-care, grooming, peace of mind, and rest to recover for the next day. So again, I'm allowing myself a cushion, to kind of get my body rested so I can enjoy a day of productivity the next day. Now, the problem that you're going to run into here is, let's say, for example, I don't sleep. Well, what happens to productivity the next day? I'm not productive. And when I'm not productive, I get anxiety. And when I'm anxious, how much fun am I having? Not a lot, because I'm anxious. So if I don't have fun, I end up getting depression. And so now if I've got anxiety and depression, or either one of those, I'm definitely not going to be sleeping as well. And when I don't sleep, I'm not as productive. and that cycle starts to kick in where now I'm dysregulated, right? Where I'm not getting sleep, I'm not feeling productive, and I'm not having enough fun. Okay? Now, again, so let's look at sleep real quick. This is the time set for self care, grooming, peace of mind, and rest to recover for the next day. When the system breaks, when the system is not sustained, some challenges will begin to present themselves. As an example, when rest is not being achieved, like someone getting up after a sleepless night, their productivity the next day will diminish. This lack of productivity can impact the person's anxiety, as their adult brain will become more active as a result of a reduced productivity, right? The overly active adult brain will start to impact the quality of someone's ability to engage in fun. So like I talked about earlier, right? Anxiety's up, fun's down, right? Instead of being able to enjoy their fun, they will start to feel consumed by their anxiety. This stress will reduce their ability to relax the brain, as then during relaxation, they will be stressed out, leading to another sleepless night. This will then result in another day of reduced productivity, reduced fun, and then again reduced sleep. This cycle will cause the person to then experience symptoms of anxiety and depression, as they're both behind in productivity and fun, resilience to burnout, causing brain imbalance. So scheduling and routines, a way to help improve outcomes of the system, especially early on or in times of grand transition, is to schedule out events related to child and adult brain, as to create a subconscious decision to follow through while also turning an idea into an action. This action provides the adult and child brain insight on when to expect their next activity, creating a relief until the event should take place. Routines allow for the implementation of the balance as to set the productivity as a form of work for the fun reward, which could simply be free time or desired reward. When left to how someone will feel the day of an event, they are less likely to have the energy, as they have not mentally and physically prepared for the event, leaving them typically more drained versus a scheduled event, which would encourage a person to alter their schedule to fit in the next planned event. So again, getting the noise out of my head and putting it in a calendar or some kind of like schedule allows my brain to not think about it as much and know when to think about it, when I'm going to actually address it. All right, so that's why it's important to take it from here and put it into something that I can follow through with. That feels more natural to my brain. Okay, so building confidence. Question, where is that ego again? The ego is the result of balance. As the schedule routine align and are fulfilled, the person that is able to sustain this will experience a boost in confidence, or in other words, their ego. A person able to meet both their productive and fun needs will experience a balance in their life that produces confidence. This confidence allows the person to make choices without feeling doubt, have a strong sense of direction, and a healthy self-reflection, creating a base on which to develop assertive communication skills, boundaries, as well as diminished reactivity. Right, so again, as I'm more confident and I understand what I want to do and how to react and how to get more results from my conversations, I'm more likely to react in a pretty calm manner, a positive way, because I know that's going to lead to a more positive outcome than reactionary when I'm anxious, right? Where I'm like, what's happening here? Okay, so again, it changes all those kind of aspects. When the ego is strong, the overall balance of the system is easier to sustain, creating a healthy, self-fulfilling system, allowing for fluctuation when needing to compensate for life deficits. So when I'm balanced, if something comes up, I can kind of compensate and pick myself back up and I'm good to go. And that's why having that insight can help kind of recalibrate the system when it falls off. How does this impact families and couples? All right, one of the benefits of understanding the system is it allows for a healthy way to establish ongoing long-term relationships. When considering why a lot of couples fight, a common theme is a lack of balance within the household. When one spouse is in their child brain and another one's in their adult brain, challenges will arise. If one spouse is doing chores while the other one's engaged in fun, a split in their communication will arise. The partners that engage in productivity may start to resent the partner having fun, as their child brain want to experience the fun instead of the productivity. You might hear comments like, "Oh, it must be nice to have all that fun. I wish I could have fun. I wish I could have a night off. I wish," that's the little kid brain complaining, like, that's not fair, but that's the best way they're going to complain about it. The spouse that's engaged in fun may start to experience their own struggles, feeling their adult brain challenging their actions, guilting them for engaging in fun and being a lack of support for their partner. even when no feedback or statements have been made. So what this is saying is, regardless if there was an argument or not, regardless if anything happened, there's going to be a clash. They're going to feel it inside, even if nothing was said. But it's the feeling of guilt or the feeling of resentment internally that causes this disruption. And again, because of different brains, right? So, family and couples, balance is key. When a couple works on developing a balanced schedule, one that includes both their productivity and fun needs on a similar schedule and time frame, it allows for improvements in communication, as both are engaged in their adult brain at the same time, allowing for an increase in unity. They both would then allow for time where they decide to engage in their child brain. This could be doing a fun activity together, engaging in parallel fun, or allowing for separate fun events like a sports team, a group that they have engaged with, or other activities outside of the home. This would allow for a mix of a healthy self-care routines, right? So again, they're either doing it together in the same environment or doing their own things, right? We want a mix of those so we can enjoy each other's company more. The key is also to have relaxation time together, as to allow for rest and comfort, time to be vulnerable and at peace with each other, and a relaxed state, reflecting on their own overall balance. So it's time to get together and talk and really reflect on what's good about life and what we enjoy about it, and enjoy each other's company and what we've been growing and developing together. So, trauma's impact on brain development. Trauma plays a key role in the overall development of the brain. Each stage of the development provides a person with a vital part of their overall ability to regulate, as each stage provides the individual with specific insights and tools designed for different needs. As an example, the child brain is designed for helping understand emotions and self-regulation. The ego is there to help provide a sense of confidence and space to explore individuality. The adult brain is built for developing trust in others. When deficits are created in the brain, it has a hard time self-regulating and making change, as it may not be self-aware of its own deficits and was never provided the appropriate tools to know any better. When insight is developed, answers are more consistent, which makes it easier to apply. I mean, kind of think about this like going to a gym and not knowing how the equipment works, you know? You don't know. You've been using this thing, and then one day someone shows you actually how to use it, and you're like, oh, I didn't know you could use it that way. I never considered that as an option. And so it's hard to make changes in one's own brain when we don't even know how it's supposed to work, or we've never been taught how it's supposed to operate. And so that's why it makes it really hard to change, because you don't even know what change means. All right, so trauma to the child brain, the id. Children ages 1 to 5 are emotional but do not understand what emotions they are feeling, nor how to alleviate it. This is when parents are supposed to recognize the emotion and provide a behavior to help alleviate the feeling. Examples would be child is holding their stomach, you look like you're hungry, let's go find you something to eat. Another example could be a child is wiggling their body, do they need to use the bathroom? A parent would say, it looks like you need to go potty, go potty. Another example would be you're acting angry, go take a little break to help. The parent is helping the child recognize their feelings, as well as providing them with options to alleviate the feelings, allowing for them to feel better. These experiences are helping the child develop future recognition of appropriate behaviors for alleviating feelings. When this process is not provided, or even further abuse is happening, this causes some deficits in insight to emotional regulation. This can come from statements like, why are you still crying? Didn't you cry enough already? To, it isn't a big deal, just get over it and stop acting like that. This is encouraging the child to suppress their emotional state, causing a buildup of feelings due to a lack of an alleviating behavior. When a feeling is held in, it will increase the pressure and discomfort in the child, leading to a few reactionary behaviors. We can explore the deficits and transitions into adulthood. So, really what we're saying here is, what are kids supposed to do? You're supposed to, as a parent, recognize the emotional state and give them a behavior to feel better. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Help them feel better. But that's not what happens in toxic families. When children experience an emotional buildup, this can lead to a few different outcomes. They may have a meltdown where they outburst and have a tantrum. They may shut down, which leads them to running away and hiding from the triggering person and event, or freeze by disassociation, leading them not wanting to run away or fight, doing their best to suppress their emotional state. They want to feel numb, also known as disassociating. as they're trying to avoid any further distress. And so they are, again, reacting, right? Tantrum, run away, freeze. Those are ways kids act when they're overstimulated, overwhelmed, emotionally not doing well. The behaviors of tantrums, running away, and freezing are all results of a lack of experience and insight on healthy behaviors to alleviate emotional buildups. This instability continues into adulthood as the deficit of emotional alleviation was never changed, which then leads to an ongoing deficit in emotional recognition and healthy alleviation. The deficits from childhood now cause the same issues in adulthood, cause them to have tantrums, run away from emotional triggering events, or remaining in a loveless relationship where they don't want to fight with their partner, but they also don't want to walk away as to disassociate from their emotional state, to not further their emotional distress. So in summary, this leads to someone not knowing how they feel or how to process their feelings, right? So when we grow up in environments where we're never allowed to feel anything, then we don't know how to feel later. We don't know how to make ourselves feel better. We just try to make ourselves not feel at all, but that doesn't help the feeling. So, trauma to the ego, individuality. Children from ages 6 to 11 begin to explore their individuality. This includes their favorite music, role models, TV shows, foods, etc. To be more specific, hobbies, passions, interests. Okay? Children will talk to their parents about their passions, hobbies, and interests as to explore and receive support for these desires. In a healthy environment, parents will take this insight and help provide the child with guidance on how to further develop these interests, passions, and hobbies. So here's some examples. You like karate? Well, we can look into getting you some classes and see how you like it. Or I think your uncle knows about horses. We can ask him about them. Or we can go look at the fish at the aquarium so you can learn more about them. This would provide guidance to the child on how to develop their passions, hobbies, and interests, which will continue into their adulthood. Okay, so again, they're learning how to expand their passion, hobbies, and interests. So it's something they can help to continue with their confidence development as they're adults because they've done it before and they can apply that same information again. So let's explore how trauma impacts this development. When children are in an unsupportive environment, they may receive comments like, "Why do you want to learn that?" Or "You wouldn't be good at that at all." Or "I'm going to put you in soccer. I liked soccer as a kid. You'll learn to like it." Right? Or "We don't have time to take you. I'm too busy to think about this right now." Right? So these discouraging comments cause a deficit regarding insight to self-development. Instead of enjoying their passions, hobbies, and interests, they will make discouraging comments about their own desires, limiting themselves from developing individuality and self, leading to deficits in adulthood regarding individuality. Right? So in summary, this leads to a struggle with developing self, as they are conditioned to discourage instead of encourage further development of self. So again, as you can see here, when someone goes through this trauma, they don't know how to support themselves or believe in themselves. So they will oftentimes disable themselves from trying new things or enabling themselves from trying new things. So they're really good at doing that counterproductive thing. Okay, trauma to the adult brain, the superego. So children and / adults ages 12 to 24 are in a period of development which they are learning about trust. This is a time when children are learning how to understand people outside of themselves, valuing others' words and efforts, learning how to believe in others. So here's some examples of behaviors that would promote trust in a healthy environment. When someone says they will show up at 8 p.m., they follow through and show up. When someone says they won't tell anyone your secret, they follow through. When someone says they won't get mad at you if you tell them the truth, they don't. Someone apologizes for making an error and takes accountability, right? So these are all examples of trust can be established and modeled for the developing child or the adult. These allow for a sense of trust built over time and experience. Next, we'll review how deficits impact the adult brain's development. So, the following scenarios are examples of toxic behaviors that will impact trust. You make plans to get picked up by a friend or a loved one. Instead of showing up on time, they show up an hour late and respond with, "I have a lot on my plate. You should have texted me to remind me." And maybe you did remind them, and they may respond with, "Well, you should know I'm busy, and you're just adding more to my plate," right? This shows a lack of accountability and increase in distrust. Someone says they won't give away your secrets during the next social outing. People are making references to information they should not be aware of. Then, when confronted, may say something like, or comment like, "What? Am I not allowed to tell your aunt? She's my sister." So again, showing a lack of accountability and increase in distrust. Someone says they won't get mad at you if you tell them the truth. After you explain your point, this is then weaponized against you, right? Is that your dumb friend that you told me about? I don't see why you even like him. You guys are dumb together, okay? So again, the trust for consistency is, again, broken, increase in distrust. Someone gets in an argument about something that you have insight and evidence on, and once they have been proven wrong, instead of agreeing to apologize and look for forgiveness, they instead seek to be the victim and want your apology for their discomfort. Again, leading to increase in distrust. So, like, it's hard to trust people here. So when you're living in, or here's another one, right? So you're living in an environment that's unhealthy or toxic social environment from ages 12 to 24, the person will develop an inability to trust others fully. They can feel a pull from inside themselves when they tell someone they trust them 100%. As internally, they feel the deficit like an emotional clamp, unable to let go of that last little bit. So as much as you want to tell someone, of course I trust you 100%, of course, you don't feel it. Like, you feel like there's a little party that's like, are you sure? You can feel it pull in you there. So let's review it, okay? Here's how the brain is impacted from trauma as a fully developed adult. So child brain, 1 to 5 years old, a person is unable to recognize their feelings. In addition to struggle with alleviating their emotional distress, they lack insight on behaviors that alleviate their feelings, leading to more shutdowns, meltdowns, and emotional dissociations. So ego, 6 to 11, right? Or individuality. So a person struggles with knowing who they are. They lack a sense of purpose and direction. They also struggle with giving themselves permission to enjoy their passions, hobbies, and interests, as well as pushing their limits and growth potential. They will engage in disabling behaviors, limiting their own development. So again, like, they don't believe in themselves, they don't push themselves. Adult brain, right? 12 to 24, a person will struggle with trusting others, including themselves. They struggle with feeling like they can have authentic relationships with others, leading to destructive outcomes to the ones that they develop. So again, not really good with trusting others and trusting themselves really too. Okay, well, how do we heal these deficits that were created by trauma? Now that we understand how trauma is developed, we can also explore how to heal the deficits that it created. Understanding the system allows for adjustments to create healthy outcomes. The main structure that will change the outcome is based on their interaction of the child and adult brain. The social environments the child grew up in has impacted the system's efficiency. By changing how the adult and child brain interact, the system can operate as intended. Each stage of development has its own insights for alleviating and correction. The insights provided will give people the chance to continue their own change over time, as they will have an understanding of their deficits and needs that can be changed when life becomes imbalanced, right? So again, we're going to learn how to use the system that we have in place now, make changes and modifications to it so that we get better, healthier results out of this whole thing. So first, let's talk about healing the child brain. So trauma review. When 1 to 5 year olds are not provided insight on how to feel or how to alleviate the feeling, they learn to suppress them, leading to meltdowns, shutdowns, and disassociation. To heal the child brain's deficits from development, you need to use your adult brain to recognize how you're feeling and then provide yourself permission to alleviate that discomfort. So here's some examples. You're at a party and you feel you're no longer wanting to be there. You recognize the discomfort and give yourself permission to say bye and leave. You're eating a meal and feel full, and you give yourself permission to throw away and save the rest for later. This allows for recognition of feelings as well as behaviors to help feel better. You are nervous to speak up at work, but you give yourself permission to put a boundary down that you would have avoided in the past. In all, the goal is to recognize how you feel and work with yourself to feel better and not avoid suppressing the feelings. So again, how am I feeling? Recognition, alleviation. That's how I need to change my adult brain. Instead of just stop feeling this, get over it. It's no, this is how I feel, and this is how I tend to feel better as a result. All right, healing the ego. Trauma review. The child does not get the insight on how to develop individuality, including passions, hobbies, and interests. This leads to a deficit in understanding self, struggling with individuality, and overall more influenced by others, disabling their ability to develop individuality. All right, so how do we heal the ego? Well, to heal the ego, we use the adult brain to work with the child brain in developing their passions, hobbies, and interests, specifically by giving themselves permission to get into things, looking to explore and engage in these desires, developing goals to be more active in their passions, hobbies, and interests, establishing dates and times that will be allocated to expanding these desires, leading to fulfillment in their individuality. So here's some examples, right? Giving yourself permission to learn guitar in the next 2 years, allowing for time but also ongoing intent. Calling different dance classes to explore times, prices, and availability as to start the process of getting into a dance class. Allowing themselves to try a new hobby by exploring details, researching different places, events, and groups that enjoy that same hobby, using their adult brain to set up their success for their passions, hobbies, and interests. The goal is to use the adult brain to establish needed steps for the child brain to enjoy the passions, hobbies, and interests, using them to work together for future development of confidence. Okay, so let's look at how we heal the adult brain, the superego, you could say, right? So trauma review. The child that grows up in an untrustworthy environment will grow up with a deeply ingrained distrust of the world, to the point the person can physically feel a discomfort when telling someone they trust them 100%, struggling with ever fully trusting anyone, even the person they love. To heal the adult brain, there are some steps that have to be taken that are overall more complex than the other two brains. In this case, we have to change how someone establishes their own value. This means when someone says they will show up at 8 p.m., they need to follow through, right? If they say they will hold in a secret, they need to follow through. Same if they say they won't get mad if you tell them the truth. When someone messes up, they just apologize and follow through. Other examples would be following through with going to the gym, starting school, paying bill on time. Their word has to have value, and the way to ensure that is to follow through. So why build a fence on an empty lot as there's nothing to protect? So again, what are we protecting if we don't value ourselves? If we don't develop value, then there's nothing there to get upset about. So let's break down T. Question, what is T? Time, energy, and attention. The T is the resource one has to provide others. Sometimes we have time and energy, but no attention span. Sometimes we have time and attention, but no energy. While other times we have attention and energy, but no time. As seen, there's multiple ways to explore these combination of resources that impact our relationships. When one follows through on their word, they are respecting their own time, energy, and attention. The people that value their outcomes, the better they are going to be able to put down boundaries with others, as they value their T, and see it as a resource or currency not worth just giving away when it leaves someone more drained in the end than fulfilled. The following will be examples of how this works. So, you tell a friend that you are going to meet at 8 p.m. You show up at 9:30 p.m., which has now devalued your T. You have the choice of making comments or following through with allowing the devalue of one's own time, or T, right? When you respect your time, energy, and attention, you will put down a boundary, and the person that did not value your T, you will give them a chance to make changes, allowing them to now respect your T. If they choose not to follow through, then you can continue to build a relationship. If they choose to follow through, then you can continue to build a relationship over time, leading to trust. So again, if I feel like this person is following through with what we're saying, they're building trust with me over time. If they do not value my boundary, this is an opportunity to reinvest your T into a person that will value it the same way you do, or you can invest in yourself and provide yourself with whatever you were looking for instead of trying to convince someone what you're worth, right? When someone tries to convince others of their value, they're actually devaluing themselves. This is why the key to trust is to develop one's value, holding others accountable to that standard. This open discord over time leads to a trust in a relationship. So again, as I build a relationship with somebody and we put boundaries down and we both meet our needs, that's building trust over time. That is actually building a quality relationship. So in conclusion, the way to build trust is to value one's own T. Then use that to develop healthy boundaries, leading to a trusting relationship built on self-respect. So the more I respect myself, the more I can expect others to respect themselves, and we can respect each other through that energy. All right, so let's understand our sixth sense, right? So far, we have covered how the brain works and operates within the child brain, adult brain, and ego. Now we'll explore how feelings impact overall regulation, how to understand feelings, and how they impact the system, which enables ongoing self-awareness and change. Now let's look back at how the child brain engages with feelings to understand the system. Feelings are a reaction to stimulation based on experience. So, feelings guide how the body dictates behaviors. If someone doesn't feel like doing something, a behavior, then they won't do it. When they do feel like doing it, they will. So the way one acts is a result of stimulation and one's experience with that stimulation. So, as an example, if someone calls your phone, depending on the name and number, feelings will vary, resulting in different behaviors depending on who's calling. So if it's a loved one, you answer right away and say hello. If it's an unknown number, you might let it go to voicemail. You don't know what's going on here. If it's work, consider the time, who it might be, what they want, leading to, a direct answer or maybe a voicemail. So depending on who's calling, this will change how someone reacts to the situation, changing how one feels, influencing their behaviors. So in summary again, behaviors are a direct result of our feelings, which are a reaction to stimulation based on experience. So we know that behaviors are a reaction to the system. When one behaves in reaction, this now creates an experience. This experience now reinforces that same system, leading to habitual response to stimulation. That it was created by one's own experience. Meaning, if someone reacts to stimulation and has a response, this response will now be part of their experience. So next time they're stimulated and feel the same, the behavior will be the same. Until one uses thoughts to break the pattern. So let's explore this process. You grow up in a family which you were taught as a child to finish your whole plate of food. For if you don't, it is a waste. The concept over time becomes part of the system. When there is food on the plate, you are compelled to eat it, even when you are physically full and feel bloated as a result. The sight of unseen food causes feelings of discomfort, as this means it is wasted, until you decide to use your thoughts between feelings and behavior, at which point this can change the chosen behavior. In this case, throwing away and saving the food over the rest of it for later, right? The first time this change happens, it will create a level of discomfort as it is a change in the experience and outcome, okay? This new experience provides a new possible behavior for congruent stimulating situations, leading to new possible outcomes of saving food and avoiding the feeling of being bloated. Over time, this will become the habitual reaction, as no thought is needed to correct the behavior, correcting the previously negative alleviation of that feeling. So over time, I now can respect my body and appreciate the fact that I don't need to feel bloated and I don't need to finish this plate, because now my intuition says, no, just save it for later, it's fine. But I'd been so conditioned that might have been my initial response until I break the pattern and change it. So to summarize, behaviors are a reaction to feelings. However, behaviors can change when thoughts intervene, so causing a person to behave outside of how they feel. This could be considered a form of masking, as the behavior is not congruent to feelings being experienced. So, the question is, how are feelings our sixth sense? Well, let's break down feelings more. Now that we understand the system, let's consider what stimulates us. Our senses, including touch, taste, smell, hearing, and sight, all of these influence our emotional state. Here's some examples. Touch. Ooh, that feels so good. Versus a wet sock. Ooh, that makes me feel ill. Taste. Ooh, that tastes so good. Versus I could never eat that. Or smell. Ooh, I love that smell. I could smell that all day. Versus, oh no, that smells horrible. Ooh. Or hear, this music makes me want to dance. Versus this band's horrible. I couldn't dance to this. Or sight, right? That looks so peaceful. versus that looks like a huge mess. So as we can see, our senses guide our feelings based on what is stimulating us. Next, we can explore how this is our sixth sense. All right. As people age, the mechanism that helps them detect their senses diminishes, like a tool being used over time loses efficiency with age. Someone's vision efficiency will change over time from ages 20 to 90 years old. This leads to struggles with accuracy over time. However, let's explore the system of feelings again. Feeling, reaction, stimulation, experience. So experience only increases over time. Meaning, when the efficiency of the senses goes down, the experience makes up the difference. This leads to the concept of intuition. Intuition is our sixth sense. As we age, we lose sharpness of the body that provides stimulation insights. However, we use our experience to make up that deficit. This is how a grandmother can look at someone making or cooking a meal, and based on the time with the ingredients, without even having to taste, will know what's wrong with the preparation. They don't have to taste to know what it will taste like. This is the same concept that allows for muscle memory. The more someone practices something, the less they need to be exact to get the same results. They can guess and be accurate using their intuition as a guide. Here's an example how this can play in the real world. You go to a mechanic shop and you have a young guy with a perfect physique. He's bright, ready to work, has every positive trait when it comes to being a healthy, ready to perform person. However, he just started the job, has little to no experience. He needs his body to be ready to learn and be active as to help him gain the experience he needs to have intuition of the job. You have a guy at the same shop with 20 years of experience. When the car rolls in, just by the sound, he's able to pinpoint the issue, estimated cost, repair time, and duration of the overall job. He's not even had to use anything to calculate outside of his experience. In summary, the guy with 20 years of experience does not need to have his body 100% because he won't have to put in the same effort as the new guy, as he can get the job done with a fraction of the effort. This is where feelings, which is your intuition, is your success. Being able to feel something while having the evidence to support it, having the ability to recognize patterns and make assumptions as a result of our own history. So let's break down fun, okay? So now we're going to break down fun, right? Actually, you know what? Let me go back 1 second. I want to talk a little bit more about feelings in this. So as you can see here, right, having the ability to recognize patterns and make assumptions based on our own history. So intuition is really about feeling people out, feeling things out. This is like when you reach for something behind you and you like, oh, it's right there, and you grab it. Why do you know it's exactly there, and why do you know what you're feeling for? How do you know when you're reaching into something, you're feeling for something? How do you know when you go in your room and you just know somebody had been in there? You can feel it. Or you can feel when someone's lying to you. Or when you're, in a boxing match and your coach says, hey, you need to feel out your opponent. What you're looking at is you're analyzing the opponent, you're recognizing what's going on, you're gearing up your body, you're feeling them out. So if they change here, you change here. They change here, and you're just responding to whatever stimuli you're receiving. Now, when your coach says get in their head, you want to make them think so they don't feel. Because the second they feel, they get comfortable. The second they have to start thinking, they're not acting anymore. They're in their thought. So the more I can get them to think, the less they're going to respond, the more I can start comboing them, right? So the idea is that when I'm in my feelings, when I know how to feel, I'm confident. When I'm not there, I'm in my thoughts. I'm not as confident anymore. So just something to really know about feelings, that they guide us, they give us some insight, they kind of prepare us for things that are unexpected, but because we have history with life. And so that history makes us more prepared for the future. So just something to think about when it comes to feeling. All right, now let's break down fun. So, breaking down fun. Fun is a very measurable concept, and here's how to explore it. The goal. This is the overall goal of the fun, the intent, the objective, right? Skill. This is about the skills required to participate in the activity or the event. This can be improved on over time. Challenge. Some kind of challenge, like losing at a game, or a concept being difficult to grasp. No long-term consequences, so if the goal is not achieved, it won't impact one's productivity needs or overall quality of life in the long run. Dopamine and serotonin, it provides someone with the reward hormone, increasing positive feelings after completion or participation. So that's pretty much how we break down fun. Now, here, look at some other concept here about fun. So fun is part of how the child brain meets its needs, providing it the needed stimulation to build resilience to burnout. It starts from childhood and continues into a healthy balance when becoming an adult. When adding long-term consequences to the criteria for fun, it turns from fun to enjoyable. An example of this process would be as follows. You start making music in your garage on the weekends, something you find fun. Over time, people start to like the music and you get recognition for the quality of the music. This causes people to want you to perform and even make music for them, leading to a record deal. The same overall parts of fun are still there: goal, skill, challenge, dopamine, and serotonin, except long-term consequences. Once you start making music for a record company, outcomes start to matter, changing the objective of fun to enjoyable. When something is enjoyable, it still causes emotional energy drainage. This means something that was once fun can turn into enjoyable, no longer meeting the need it had. This is why a musician may have side projects as a way to continue to have fun without inhibiting their independence, their future, or peer reception. So negating feelings of anxiety. So again, it's like, you could have been in baseball your whole life, but then when you get to high school or college, it changes how you have fun. Or maybe you love playing a video game and then you start playing ranked and you start trying to, build your rank up, and every time you lose, it just devastates you and ruins your day. And so again, we got to be very careful when we start caring about outcomes when it comes to fun. That's not fun anymore, that's enjoyable. But that's not the same process of recovery that we need to actually engage in fun. So just something to really consider when we go from fun to enjoyable. Vegetative recovery. Vegetative recovery is a tool/behavior to use when experiencing disassociation. A good way to think of this is when a child has had an overstimulating day or needs some rest. They will find a spot to lay down and allow the body to rest. During this time, the child may be in their room, on the floor, watching TV on the couch, on their iPad, scrolling mindlessly. This state is allowing the body to recover. This same mechanism is useful for adults. The issue is when someone's adult brain is overly active and is disabling them from engaging in the rest their body is seeking. Their adult brain will make comments about being lazy, too sensitive, a waste of time, and countless others. This leads to the body being stuck and not recovering. What is important is to give the body permission to rest and do nothing, allowing for the body to recover and move forward with the day as needed, as to alleviate the feelings of disassociation. So this usually is really good for like when you've had a very extra stressful day, out of the norm stressful, you just don't feel like yourself, you don't feel like doing anything. But again, you just need to kind of just rest and just lay there and allow your body to do nothing. Like, I give myself permission to lay here and just exist. And I promise you, you'll feel 10 times better than if you fight yourself, feeling bad. Because really, there's only two ways this is going to end. You're either going to fall asleep and then wake up feeling bad that you even took a nap and wasted more time, or you're going to get up out of spite and you're going to be angry with yourself because now you just feel like, oh my God, like, why did I lay there for all those hours? I'm angry now. So again, not a good combo either way. Really learning how to allow my brain to rest for that time is going to be the best outcome for this situation, especially when you're experiencing that level of disassociation. So what could be 4 hours of recovery, when using this, could be an hour and a half. Or even days could turn into hours. This is why it's very important to use this tool. Okay, bonus parenting skills. How can I earn it? So imagine you give a child a candy and then ask them to clean their room. Once the child's done with the candy, the incentive or motivation to clean will be significantly less than the following example. You show a child a candy and then tell them once they clean their room, they can have the candy. The level of motivation to clean the room will increase tenfold in comparison to giving the incentive first. This same concept works with helping children adapt to the natural order of productivity, then fun. This happens when parents encourage children to say, how can I earn it, versus the it being anything that is currently desired. This could be the tablet, going out with friends, playing with toys, having a snack, anything they can want. So instead of a child saying, I want, leading the parent to say no, making the parent the barrier to pleasure, the child would say, how can I earn? causing the parent to explore behaviors the child can do to earn those desired rewards. Their parent then will give them the solution like, hey, if you clean your room, you can go outside with your friends. The child now has the ability to choose to follow through or reject, ultimately leading to the child being the one who denied their own desires. This leads a child to having to explore their own limits and desires as they now have become their own barrier. So again, the child now is their own problem. They're the one saying, I don't want to do it. So they have to decide when they're ready to do it and if they want to do it. And if they really want this thing, they're going to start working towards it. This leads to the child gaining insight and productivity, leading to fun, as well as a tool to help improve communication outcomes with parents and children, tying in the idea that experience guides behavior. So when a child wants a specific type of stimulation, their behavior is to do the objective needed to get their reward without asking. The child will clean their room in anticipation for wanting to go outside. This leads to an overall better outcome for both parents and children alike, as both can benefit from working with each other and earning rewards. So again, why is this super important? Well, this is the concept that allows kids to develop into healthy adults later, right? Understanding, hey, productivity means I earned it. They're going to ultimately do things ahead of time so that they know they can get what they want because they already know the system. Kids are really bad thinkers, but they're really good doers. That's why you're like, why don't you think about what you do? No, not really, but they're really good at doing. So if you give them a system to follow, they're very likely to follow the system as long as you give them that rewards that they want at the end, which again, could be a variety of things. Could be free time, could be a specific thing that they want, and you work with the kid's brain, and over time they'll just start doing the task required for them without asking because they want the desired reward. Okay, phases of brain balance. So let's talk a little bit about kind of like what I do and kind of how I teach people and the progress and kind of like the elements that go along with this type of modality. So there's 3 phases of helping heal through brain balance. Phase 1 is building insight and value of self. Outside of the influence of one's social influences, develop independence, a healthy future, comfort in their current potential, in addition to exploring passions, hobbies, and interests. The goal is to develop one's own value without the influence of others. Phase 2, this phase is a time to reconnect with social supports and relationships. During this time, someone will learn how to use assertive communication, boundaries, as well as de-escalation to improve communication outcomes, allowing for more positive outcomes from talking with people that someone once felt drained engaging with. And phase 3 is considered a phase where mastery of phase 1 and 2 are applied in a larger setting. This allows for someone to engage in family events, work events, and social gatherings without leaving emotionally impacted or mentally drained, allowing for continued confidence regardless of their environment. So again, phase 1, who am I? What do I want from life? Outside of everybody else, I really got to build value in me, right? My own value. And then once I have that value, now I got to learn how to negotiate it, right? Not lose myself in that process, but be able to talk to people. And then once I'm really good at both of those, I can go anywhere. And it don't bother me. I can go to any family event, whatever. I'm good. No one's going to affect me. So let's break down brain balance again. So, the basics. Brain balance is a tool designed to help people understand how the brain works under ideal conditions. It allows people to understand the impact of childhood trauma while also knowing that they have hope for change. Breaks down concepts to a core that's manageable and relatable, and gives people specific insights and tools to make change in their life, addressing their anxiety, depression, and overall confidence, right? And so, again, my tool at the core of it is just to help people really understand that change is possible when you really break the brain down. One difference I would say my tool modality has from others is I would say other therapy models really help people blow up their disinflated tire or their punctured tire, right? So as it gets deflated, we use some of these like tools like deep breathing to inflate the tire back up. But the problem is fundamentally that when the tire keeps losing air, this person keeps having to use these tools to pump it back up. And so what happens to the day when it's raining and you're running late and the tire needs to be pumped up and you just don't have the ability to do it right there and then, and you just break down and you're not able to fix this problem because you're not having the right environment. Well, my idea is instead of like trying to, drive on a flat tire, let's fix the tire, the system. right? Let's balance the tire out so it doesn't deflate anymore, right? And then when I'm balanced, I can stay on track. Because if I'm imbalanced and my tire's flat, I'm gonna have to keep compensating. And the second I let go, I'm done. My life's gonna fall apart. I feel like I'm always having to hold on instead of being able to let go. My life just goes cruising along. So instead of keep working on this flat tire, let's fix the tire. Let's fix the system. Because as long as the system is fixed, life's just going to keep rolling on, right? But if there's a hole in this system, it's going to deflate. Just like that idea that the cycle will continue if it gets messed up, and it's just going to self-propel itself. So that's really the core of what this does. That we fix a system. We fix the totality, not just a symptom. Here's some examples of how I present it. You can see some small pictures here, some different ways that I throw in information. You can kind of see the same elements, child, adult, different things that I show: anxiety, depression, how I connect them. And I have different examples of kind of how I've presented it throughout my time. And here's kind of a more recent example. So you can see I put love because, the child brain is really based on love, and adult brain is really based on security, depression, anxiety, passions, hobbies, interests, independent, future peers, kind of connecting all the dots here for people, showing them the cycles, right? How the different elements affect each other. And so I'm really connecting the dots for people and pointing at things and being more interactive during session that helps you really kind of connect the pieces while you're doing this. And yeah, thank you guys. This is, again, my presentation for brain balance. I appreciate you guys' time today. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me. I'm more than happy to share my thoughts and talk to you guys about this, and more than happy to get feedback and see what you guys think. But this is my tool. This is something that I want to help change the world, and I appreciate everybody that's been a part of this journey with me. So thank you guys. Again, my name is Sebastian Shields, licensed marriage and family therapist here based out of California, and I hope to keep helping and influencing the world. So thanks again. All right, take it easy, guys. Bye.